Whew, so this tutorial is very long, guys. Keep that in mind. It's long for a reason. It's supposed to teach you so much information in such a short video, so make sure you watch it all until the end. And after you see the entire video, try it out. Make what I made in the video or do something I did in the video, replicate what I did, and then go to my Twitter and tweet me at Roball01. Link is down below. Follow me on Twitter, link is down below, and tweet me what you made. We're gonna do that every single video, and in the next video, I'll shout those people out for them and their learning objectives. And I also want to see people doing this system because I feel like in the beginning of every video, if we did this, it would be very interactive and fun. So make sure you watch the entire video, do what I said, and comment down below any future build ideas you have for a tutorial. Hey there everyone, welcome to my first Roblox Studio tutorial. Now this is going to be like a building tutorial teaching you how to build. There will be some scripting involved, although this will not focus on scripting whatsoever. The main focus will be building and other aspects of Roblox Studio, maybe stuff like animating, lighting, particle effects, and so on. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want you to do, guys, is go ahead and download Roblox itself, because when you download Roblox, you get Roblox Studio alongside with it. So if you want to find Roblox Studio, what I recommend doing is going down to the bottom left corner and searching Roblox Studio. You'll see this right here. When you click on it, it'll open it down here. After you open it, what I want you to do is right mouse click on it and pin it to your taskbar. That way it's super easy to find and you will always have it there. That way it's gonna be that little button right there and it'll never disappear. So now the first thing you wanna do, everybody, what I want you to do is go ahead and go to the top left corner and click on File. Now what I want you to do next is click on New, or you can press Ctrl N, which will open a new place on Roblox Studio. Now this place has a lot of things to do. If you hold the right mouse click button, you can drag your camera around all 360 degrees, right? If you click and hold, you can select different things. If you use the WASD keys, you can do A for left, D for right, S for back, and W for forward. Now space doesn't do anything, keep that in mind, guys, but E makes you go up, and then Q makes you go down. So depending on your angle, you could press W and press E to go forward and W to go down. So it always depends on your camera orientation. So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you all the keys you need to know when it comes to building, and I will be linking you all the plugins that I mainly use when using Roblox Studio. Now a lot of people ask me, how do I get this dark theme? What I want you to do to get the theme, go to File, then scroll down and go to Settings, or press Alt S. So you go to Settings, everybody, and once you're in Settings, you'll notice that you're in the Studios tab. Stay in the Studios tab. Then you want to go ahead and scroll down a little bit and go to the General section. In the General section, you'll see UI theme. You go on that, you click on that, yours will most likely be set to light, like this, right? Then what I want you to do is click on dark, and that's how you get the dark theme, the one that I have. Now, any other changes you make will not take place until later. There's also something I want to mention is some people cannot see neon in Roblox Studio, and I'm going to show you how like some people can see the neon material. In order to see the neon material, let me go ahead and skip over to the part where I show you guys. Okay, in order to see neon material, everybody, go ahead and go to the rendering tab. Instead of studio, click on rendering, and you'll see edit quality level and quality level. Go ahead and make it the highest that you can, 21. Usually it's around 7 to 14 when you begin Studio. It's not really at 21 at the beginning, but 21 makes it so you can see neon. So I'll show you an example of what I mean. If I were to insert a part by clicking this button over here, and I were to press F to scroll into it, it takes my camera to that part and it rotates my camera around it. But if I were to press WASD, I no longer rotate around the part because my camera's focusing on something else. So let's go ahead and select the color of the part. We'll make it maybe like a neon green by selecting the brick color. Now in order to open the Explorer and the Properties tab that I have open, you go ahead and you click on View, and if you don't have this open, you click on this thing right here, this little arrow at the top right corner. You go to View, then you click on Explorer to open Explorer, and Properties to click on Open Properties. Now these color, once I have this color, guys, I want to go ahead and click on Plastic, click it again, then scroll down a little bit and click on Neon. Neon is the color that I want, or the material that I want, not color. Now that I have the neon material, what I want to do next is go to my settings, like I mentioned earlier, and show you the difference between edit quality level and quality level. So if I were to lower my edit quality level to about 14, you notice that the neon does have a difference. It changes just a tiny bit. It becomes a little bit less real. If I were to make it 1, notice how the neon does not have its material anymore. Typically, it's around 4 when people begin Roblox Studio, or around 7. So just in case, I recommend turning it up as high as you can in order to see the neon, although it does not have to be at 21. As long as you can see the neon material, that's going to help you with your future building endeavors on Roblox Studio. Now, in order to delete an object, you can either right mouse click on it and click Cut, Control Z to undo, or you can right mouse click and select the, I think there's an undo option at the top left corner actually. You can do this to undo and redo. Now Control Y, like Control Z does this, Control Y does a redo effect. Now you can also right mouse click on it and copy it, then right mouse click on it and paste it. But you can also press Control C and Control V to paste and copy in that order. So copy, Control C, paste, Control V, as you can tell. Now, if I wanted to select multiple objects, again, like I said before, you go ahead and you highlight all these objects, and notice how I have 4 parts selected right here. What I want to do next is I want to go ahead and deselect some parts, but I don't want to actually ruin what I've selected. So what I recommend doing, I'll do this real quick. I'll make this into a different material. That way it's easier to see. I'm just typing the S key in order to have different colors and different materials. Then I'm going to make this one a red part, and I'm going to make this one a blue part. What happens next is I'm going to select all these parts, and if I were to hold shift and do the box selection like I said earlier, it allows me to deselect an object. Now if I were to just do a box selection like I did before, it would deselect everything and I'd have to reselect everything again. Now let's do another box selection. If we were to put the box in between these 2 parts, it only selects those 2. Now if I were to press Control 1, it lets me do selection like this where I can move objects by grabbing them and dragging them. But if I were to press Control 2, it lets me open the Roblox Studio arrow stuff. So you just go ahead and grab the arrow cursors and I'll let you do a movement. Now Control 3 is for resizing, and you can go ahead and resize it like this. If you have multiple parts selected, it resizes them as a group and not as individual objects. Now in order to resize them as individual objects, you go ahead and you have to deselect everything. When I select this part and I press shift, it does an entire selection increase. Now notice how when I press shift, this side does not move position whatsoever. It's still clashing with the red part. And what we call this in the building studio, like all the builders, we call this the Z clashing or Z offset. The Z clashing is basically when 2 parts have the same exact Z axes on this point or on this surface, and they're clashing and doing this little texture overlapping. Now as a builder, I recommend not letting that happen. So Control Z to undo that. And if I were to do Control and drag this, it would actually resize it on both sides here. Notice how the green option is up and down again. If I were to do Control and drag it up, it does both sides up and down. Now if I were to do it to the right side, the red side, it does this. The left and right get resized because I'm pressing Control. I press F again to go to the object, and I press Control and I can resize it on one side or on one axis. You know what I mean, guys? So this is like the X axis, this is like the Z axis, and this is like the Y axis. Now in order to see your axes in Roblox Studio, they have a little thing called display axes. It's very similar to Blender, so I recommend clicking on that. And at your bottom left corner, you can actually see the axes. It's pretty cool. It moves around with your camera too. So there's going to be a lot of edits in this video to let you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So if I were to go to the Z axis, which is the blue, and hold shift, it lets me increase it from the Z axis. And if I were to press Control and do it, it lets me increase from the Z axis. The red being the X, the blue being the Z, and the Y being the Y, or the green being the Y, excuse me. A little bit tired. Now, that's all I want to show you for that thing right there. So let's go ahead and press Control X and delete that. But there's one more thing I want to do. Let's go ahead and undo that because I just remembered something that you need to know as a builder. What I want you to do, what I want you to do is select this object, Control 2, now press Control D. This lets you duplicate the object at the exact position. So if I were to select this object and right mouse click on it, I can select the duplicate option right here. I just go ahead and click that, and I can drag this over here and it duplicates the object for me. Let's go ahead and select these 2 by selecting Control or holding it and then clicking on both objects, and I can press Control X to delete it. And I want to go ahead and try something new, guys. I'm going to teach you how to group and ungroup an object. Now I understand if I'm going a little bit fast, guys, I do apologize, but this is a video. You can rewatch every single clip if you want to, and if you have any questions or any ideas or what you want me to build on this video, go ahead and comment them down below, guys. So if I were to select these objects right here and I right mouse click, I see this group object option, right? So I go ahead and click on that. Control G. They are now in a group, which means they're like in a folder, like in a filing cabinet, how you put things in a folder to organize it. And that's how some people organize their models. Now, some people go to the workspace, which is where every single part is inside of, and they right mouse click on it, and they basically insert a folder. Now, folder is another way to organize your models, so I could put both of my parts into this folder. Although the issue I see with folders is it's a little bit complex for beginners. So I recommend not using a folder for now. Try to use models as a beginner. If you're going to use folders, it makes it a little bit easier to organize it for your scripter, which is what we do, Robin, myself, and Fabiax for Deadly Sins Retribution, which is our current game. Link is down below. Now remember, I'm going to go ahead and show you the plugins that I use in just a moment. I'm going to link you all the plugins down below in the description if you want to get them, guys. Now there's also different options right here. If I want to go full screen, I can click the full screen option. It's very, very useful. So we're gonna go ahead and keep full screen on right there. You can also take screenshots and record what we're doing, which we're not gonna do right here. But we can also do the show grid option, which lets us see a basic 4x4 grid on each of our base plates. Now, a base plate, if you were to select the object here on the Explorer, a base plate is roughly 512 by 512 by 20 in height. So it's 512 on the X, 512 on the Z, and also just 20 on the Y, which is how tall it is or how high it is if you know basic arithmetic, guys. Also geometry. So what I want you to do is notice how I can't click on this object. I can't highlight the base plate. What's going on? What I want you to do is go ahead and go to the Explorer, click on that, then scroll down. I'm going to show you these different options. There's different things. Remember how I mentioned that dragging this stuff lets you move it? Well, that is called the position. If you look right here, the position allows me to edit it. The -10 is my Y. So if I were to make that -5, it makes it go higher. Then I can go ahead and Control Z that. If I were to make this go to 5, it makes it go ahead and go 5 forward on the Z axis. So if I were to make it go 55, it goes 55 forward. Now if I were to undo all that, Control Z twice, and I were to go over here and I press where I just type in 60, it moves it 60 over to the left because that's on the X axis, everybody. Now, after that, what I want to show you is the orientation right here. This is when you rotate an object. In order to rotate an object, after pressing Control 3 to resize, you press Control 4. So go ahead and press Control 4, and that lets you rotate an object. Remember to press F to do the camera move that I'm doing. And if I just like this one on the Z, I can rotate it around here. And now notice how I can also rotate it around on the X, and then also rotate it around on the Y axis. Now after that, what I want you to do, guys, is go ahead and press Control 3, and then hold Shift, and try to resize your base plate like that. Notice how the base plate does go down in size, but we want to undo that and actually do it over here. If you go to the home button at the top left corner, you can actually go ahead and see all your options right here, like select, move, scale, rotate, also paste, copy, cut, and duplicate. Another thing I want to mention is to insert a part, you can also use this, and you can select different types of parts, like a sphere. You can select maybe a block, which is what we inserted before. You can also insert a wedge, and then also a cylinder. These all have different hitboxes, so if I were to take a cylinder and I were to rotate it with Control 4, then move it up here, I can go ahead and resize it up, right? Now press Control or Shift, and I do this, right? And then I resize this down a little bit to make it a little bit easier. Control 1, drag it back up. There we go. Now if I were to go ahead and drag this down and make this that big, notice how this cylinder increases on both axes together. If I were to take the wedge, I can go ahead and resize the wedge like this. A wedge is basically a ramp, everybody. That's all you need to know about the wedge. The wedge is like a ramp. I recommend using the wedge for certain things, and you'll find out in the future what we'll be using it for. But for now, just go ahead and do that. Now this is the block or the brick, as I explained before in the beginning of the video. It's what we've been using so far, and this is basically resizable too. Now you also have the sphere. The sphere is really cool. I love the sphere. Notice how I can just do this, and the sphere increases on everything. Now notice how something's different. If I were to go ahead and click on play or F5, it lets me play in the studio with my parts. But notice how something's a little bit off. You can't see it right now, but if I were to touch my objects, something's different. These objects, they can't move, right? It's because they're anchored. But if I were to try to move these objects, I can try to move them and they might move. It's because they are not anchored. Notice how I can walk up the ramp and jump around and stuff like that. But notice how this sphere is actually not anchored, and I can move the sphere by just jumping constantly on it, holding my space bar. And that's the issue. If you're making the game and you don't want your sphere to be moved, what I need you to do is click on the stop button. Then once you click on stop, you can go ahead and go to the properties tab. Once you have the part selected, scroll down just a little bit and you can select anchored. That makes it so it's anchored to the floor, anchored to where it is in the middle option or the middle axis. There's also archivable. If I were to click archivable and uncheck that, and I click on play, notice how the sphere is not there. The sphere is not archivable, which means the game did not archive it in its quote-unquote library, which means the game doesn't think the sphere exists, or the sphere doesn't exist in the playtest mode. Now I'm going to go ahead and check that again, so the sphere is there again. Now Can Collide is another option you should select too. Can Collide's pretty cool. So if I just select that and make that unchecked as a box, I can go ahead and go to my sphere. So I made it so I can collide with it or I can't collide with it. So notice how I go through the object right here. I go through it, which means that it's pretty cool, honestly. I can go through this object and walk through it because I made it can collide. So we're going to go ahead and click stop and select the final option. there is the locked option. The locked option is something we've been noticing this entire video, but I didn't really go into. So what I want you to do again is select the base plate in the properties tab, because you can't select it here or highlight it. Select it there. Then you go scroll down and you notice how the locked button is on. This is the reason why you can't click on the base plate. So you go ahead and uncheck that, and then you go ahead and you deselect it by just selecting nothing in the skybox, which is basically all this. That's a skybox. More tutorials on lighting and particles in the future, guys, don't worry. You select the base plate and you can move it around now. Notice how I can move the base plate around and resize it, Control 2, and I can move it around. It's very cool how I can do this now because of the fact that I decided to select my base plate and make it unlocked. Now notice how there's also this thing right here. This thing right here is something that kind of happens sometimes, so I recommend just ignoring this. Don't pay attention to it, don't mind it. But that's basically all the tutorial stuff I want to show you for that. There's also the toolbox. The toolbox is all your free models and everything like that. We'll showcase that more in the future for another video, but for now I want to show you the plugins, everybody. Okay, so these are the plugins that I want you guys to download. All you have to do is go to the link down below in the description. You click on the link, then you click install once you have Studio already installed. And I'm going to give you a tutorial on all these tools. You click install and it'll basically open a new Roblox Studio for you, and you can click the install button already. Now I already have these installed, so I'm Gucci, I'm good. But you click reinstall basically for me. You click install for yourself, you know? Now I'm gonna go ahead and click F11 to go on full screen and X that out. I can install that, install the model resize plugin, install the Stravent resize align, install material flip, install gap fill, and install building tools by F3X. Now what I want you to do is go ahead and go into Studio and click on the plugins tab. Once you're in plugins, you can go ahead and see all these tools right here. Now, I'm only going to show you the tools that I recommended. The first thing I want to show you guys is the material flip. So first thing you want to do for material flip, have a part right here. Now we're going to make this part made out of wood by typing W. Notice how it's wood, right? You click on material flip and then you click on the object. Notice how this wood is going to change. It goes up and down instead of left and right. And now if we're to click on it again, it goes left and right again. If we're to click on this, it goes up and down, left and right. Click on this, up and down, left and right. Notice how I can click on this, and these both have different material flips because it keeps calculating until it gets the material flip that it wants or needs. So until then, make sure you just familiarize yourself with material flip. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the gap fill. Gap fill's pretty freaking cool, but gap fill is going to be something complex. So what I want you to do is insert a part. We're going to insert 2 blocks, right? Then we're going to Control 3 and resize it up and left and so on. We're going to Control D and move it over. Now notice how there's 2 parts right here. We're going to go ahead and move them over so they're not touching anymore and move them like this. Notice how they're on a different axes, different planes and everything like that, except for on the Y axis. I click on plugins, then I click on gap fill, and I have different options. I have normal, negative, best guess, 1 stud, thinnest. I'm going to do the normal and best guess. So if I were to click on this side, notice how that little arrow is going up and down, or up. Then I click on this side, and notice how it created a part to go in between these 2. I'm going to also click on this, and click on this, and it creates a part going between those 2 too. So if I were to click Control 2, it deselects my plugin. And if I were to press Alt, or maybe not press Alt, Alt is for mainly when things are grouped. So notice how these 2 are grouped. If I were to press F and go on Alt, I can select one object in the group. Or you can press Control U to ungroup it, by the way. If I were to go to this and I press on this, Control, press that again, I can select both of them. Notice how there are 2 parts right here. Now, if I wanted to not make this 2 parts like it is right here, so if I were to color this to be maybe blue, and then this to be red. Notice how this is gonna be red, not blue. I'm not colorblind, guys. Or purple, I guess. Purple's fine too. I'm gonna make this red. Then we're gonna make this green. Notice how they're all different colors, right? The Z clashing is happening. Ignore that for now. We're gonna go ahead and delete this because we don't want that to happen. We want to use the resize align plugin and click on this side. It selects a surface, and then click on this side, and it resizes it to align the corners. So it no longer looks like it has a gap between them. Instead, it doesn't have a gap anymore. Next, what I want you to do, guys, is I'm going to show you the model resize plugin. What I want you to do is click on this and then click on the toggle handles part. Now, when I do this and I drag it up, it lets me resize the part. It's really easy resizing models, and that'll be used in a future video. Undo all that, then deselect this, and you're good. Now, this is the form where it lets you do like percentages. So if I wanted this part to be 500% bigger, I go ahead and click resize after typing that, and it does that for me. Now let's go ahead and deselect all of this. We're good after that. Now the next thing and the final thing that I want to show you for this video, everybody, is building tools by F3X. This is very complex, and I'll be giving you like a basic, fast tutorial. We're gonna go and lock this base plate right there. I'm gonna give you a very fast tutorial, guys. That way it's not gonna take too long. So for building tools by F3X, remember control and selecting lets you select everything. You can also do shift and select, which selects things too. You can also do a box selection like I did before. And then you can also just do this where it selects everything by holding shift. It does not make a difference. It doesn't deselect things. So to deselect things in building tools by F3X, you have to manually hold shift and click on each object to deselect. That's all you gotta do. Now after the model, like the move tool, there's global and there's local and there's last. If I were to make it global, it lets me go by like the global axes like this. But if I were to rotate this object just a little bit, pressing C and rotate it, and I were to make it global, notice how it still goes on the global axes, right? But if I were to make this rotated like so, and move it on the local axes, notice how it does this. It follows the face. It doesn't follow the world, it follows the face of the object. We're gonna go ahead and do that. If I were to click on last and I'll select two objects, it follows the plane of the object I last selected. So it's like a local thing for the object last selected, but it moves everything on that plane. So if I were to select all these objects and rotate them differently, like so, and rotate this like so, select all these, then I move this up like this, they all go that direction. That's pretty much it for that. Now, if I wanted to undo all that, Shift Z to do it instead of Control. Shift Z to undo, Shift C to copy, it automatically duplicates it for you, which is really cool to be honest. You can also Shift X to delete. Then you can also, I believe you can do, what's it called? You can go ahead and go to increment, click on this, and you can change it to be like maybe 5, and it moves everything up by 5 instead of 1. Now I'm gonna make this 25, and it's gonna move it up by 25. If I wanted to do a quick selection for increment, you press dash, then you can do like 0.25. Notice how it goes up by 0.25. 0.25 down, 0.25 down, like that. Like so. That's pretty much it. Now the next thing you want to do for position, these are the world axis position like I showed earlier. I can make this 50, and I can make this 0, like that, okay? That's all there, and it shows you what you last did right there, your last movement. So if I move this over by 10, it says 10 right there. That's it for that. X is for resizing. Basically the same thing as movement tool, same thing as Roblox Studio. If I were to press enter, it lets me shift through all my different options right here. Notice how I do that. If I were to press enter on this, it does the same thing. Normal is to resize up and down, normally on one side. Then both is to resize on both sides of the plane. And that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and go to the rotation object. It's the same thing. So center rotation does the same thing on the world axis. Local is for the local thing. So it lets me rotate on the local object like that. Then last is a cool thing too. So if I were to go ahead and do Shift C, then I were to press C to rotate, then I press R, it lets me do this. I can go ahead and click on that pink X, and then I rotate it off of that edge. Notice I can rotate the object off of this edge right here. That's pretty cool. Notice how it does this too, and I can rotate it by selecting both these objects, and then rotating on here by pressing R, and then clicking on this plane, and boom, look at that. It looks pretty cool. That's a pretty cool feature to have. Make sure you tinker around with that. We'll be using it more in the next video. And all these options are basically color. You also have like the surface material. We're not going to go into that. You also have material. You also have anchoring, which makes sure it's anchored. Collision on and off, which makes it so you go through the object or not. J is for new options, so new parts. So if I were to press J, I can insert a normal part. Notice how it inserts a brick, and it's already anchored for me. If I were to press J again, I can go ahead and see I can insert a truss, which lets me climb it like in obbies, like so. Then if I were to press J, I can insert a wedge, I can insert a corner, which is like a corner wedge basically. It's like really cool to be honest. Now notice how I can do this, a corner. I can press J, and I can also do a cylinder, which is pretty cool too. Look at that, ooh, looking pretty cool. I can also do a ball, which is like a sphere like I did before, boom right there. I can also insert a seat, which makes me sit on it like a car, or like a driving a car. We'll look at that in the future. Vehicle seats for driving a car, seat is just for sitting down in a chair. Then you also have the spawn point, which lets you spawn on this object when it's in the game. That's pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. If you did enjoy the tutorial, make sure you leave a like. Also subscribe if you're new. Next video, we will be talking about new subjects, new things, and we might be building something too. So make sure you guys are there for the next tutorial, number 2. Be there or be square. If you guys have any ideas for future make videos for the tutorial series, comment them down below in the video comments. Whichever one gets the most likes, we'll possibly do in the next video or the one after that. Till then, it's been your man Roball. I'm signing out now. I'll see you guys in the next building tutorial. Peace, everybody.